Welcome back or welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be doing a big plant-forward meal prep with some breakfast, lunch, and snack items, all in under 2 hours. I'll give you some of those timestamps along the way. Now it does take a bit of time up front, but it feels so good to have a few items ready to go in the fridge for my husband and I. It just makes our weeks go a lot smoother. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Hannah. I am a registered dietitian and a new mama to a 10-month-old little girl. And I'm all about helping you get more plants onto your plate because it's my belief that whole plant foods have so many health benefits, and you don't need to be vegan or vegetarian necessarily 100% to experience them. So let's get started with this prep. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is putting these potatoes in the oven for our breakfast burritos with a lot of spices. The first thing you want to do when making any sort of prep is to think about what's going to take the longest and start with those things if you can. So for example, these potatoes roasting need to happen before I can assemble the breakfast burrito, so I'm going to start with that. I'm also going to start marinating some tofu here in a minute. So those are the kinds of things that I get started if I'm making multiple meals with right away. We're also going to be making some tofu poke bowls for my lunches. So the next thing we're going to start with is getting the tofu pressed. So I like to cut it into cubes, press it. This removes some of the water so that it can better soak up the marinade, which I will start doing after they've pressed for about 30 to 60 minutes. So we're going to give these breakfast burritos a plant-forward spin with a lot of spinach that I'm going to add. Of course, these potatoes have great fiber. And then I always keep cans of black beans or any other kinds of beans around because they're just super easy to toss into any foods or meals that you're already making that may not be plant-based to give them a little bit more plant-based protein and fiber. I like to say that there's a bean for every cuisine in a way. These are kind of Mexican-inspired breakfast burritos, so black beans or pinto beans would work well here. As you're going to see later in our tofu bowls, I use some edamame. So edamame is great for Asian-inspired food. You can use white beans for Italian food and lentils and chickpeas for Greek food or Mediterranean-inspired food. So there's always a bean that you can kind of toss in to match whatever cuisine you're cooking. Okay, now our tofu is pressed, so we're going to start making the marinade for our tofu poke bowls. Pretty simple with just some soy sauce, some pressed garlic, rice vinegar, a little bit of maple syrup as well. And we'll pour that over the tofu to marinate for just a little while as I make my husband's egg salad, which is what he's going to be doing for lunches. have found that when I am doing a bigger prep like this, it works a little bit better for me to make two separate meals for my husband and I if he's not making his own meal and I'm making one for him. That's just because we have different taste preferences for what we like for leftovers or prepped food. So, for example, I don't mind tofu or fish as leftovers, but those aren't his favorite. He enjoys them fresh, but just not after a day or two. And I like egg salad too. I totally could have just made a big batch of those if I was pressed for time. But I really do like a little bit more fiber in my lunches, so I decided to go for the tofu poke bowls. I was just making the brown rice for those poke bowls and then went back to the egg salad. I add in some Dijon mustard and then capers for a little extra brininess, as well as plenty of celery and green onions and black pepper. All right, so we've got the egg salad done, which Sky can have in wraps. We have the breakfast burritos made, and now I am getting started on some energy bites while the brown rice cooks and the tofu continues to marinate. So these energy bites, I decided to do raspberry and white chocolate because it's near Valentine's Day, and I thought that that would be tasty and kind of festive. They have almond butter, which is a really great healthy fat. I add in a little bit of vanilla protein powder and oats as well, just to give it some texture and some structure. I was using Lily's sugar-free white chocolate chips. Frankly, I would have probably just gotten the regular ones, but they were out of them at the store, and this is all they had. They ended up being really good, though, and the overall recipe is a little bit lower in sugar, just a tiny bit of maple syrup, and a lot of balance with all of that almond butter for the healthy fats and some protein powder as well. So I let that dough sit for a little while, and I'm going to get back to the tofu poke bowls. After the tofu marinated, I'm now going to pan sear it to make it nice and crispy, and I'll pour the marinade on top for a little bit of a glaze as well. I will prep the veggies while that tofu cooks and while the brown rice continues to finish cooking. And so for these bowls, what I chose to add was what ended up being a ton of green vegetables. So they're very green bowls. I have cucumbers, a little bit of green onion, and then I'll be adding some avocado in a little bit as well. These energy bites ended up being delicious, and we love to have them just around for a quick snack before workouts because they keep us kind of full but aren't too heavy. So that was a real win for this week. So I'm slicing up the avocado. The brown rice just finished cooking, and I'm going to go ahead and assemble the tofu poke bowls. Usually I would have liked to add a like sriracha mayo aioli kind of drizzle too, but we were out of sriracha. So what I ended up doing later on was adding nori and a bit of wasabi to the bowls to make them more of like a sushi vibe, and they were super delicious.